What's up, everybody, and welcome to Theory Underground. I'm your host, David McKerracher, and I've got a co-host here, Nance. Welcome. I said a co-host. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
what's up,
didn't
man?
realize you had your sunglasses on and stuff. So I looked over and I was like, "Well, who is this? I don't even recognize him anymore."
It's me, dude.
All right, everybody. So what we're about to play for you all here is from the early January Epic Marathon stream, because I had two Epic Marathon streams, and Nance was there for the whole ride on both of them. But this is the first of those where we had on a variety of guests, starting the day off with a conversation with Peter Rollins and Nor Hariri and Ted Reese. It's amazing. It's an amazing conversation, followed by one with Alfie Bone, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, at some point in the day, due to my failure to communicate clearly, one of the guests was not there at the time that we thought she would be. And so we did this impromptu, lecture. And there's a couple of things we want to say as a preface to it. And that's why we have Capital Mondays up here on the screen. And that is to say that, like, we reference a lot the stuff that we're doing here in the Capital Mondays playlist. And you don't need to watch all of these videos. I don't know how many hours that would take at this point. Even if you were double speeding, it would take a while. It's like 6.5 hours, 6 hours, 11 minutes, 6 hours, 22 minutes, 5 hours, 5 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours. Yeah. So, yeah, what does it matter, though, Nance?
Previously we were in danger of fumbling the ball, I think, with with taking seriously the idea of the labor theory of value when it comes down to, I guess, the debate going on between value form Marxists and other Marxists. And it wasn't until recently we became aware of the category or the label that is value form Marxism in the first place. And it's an ongoing conversation that's being had, I think, at multiple levels. I think there is a very kind of smooth brain, internet GG chat version of this, where it's like, yes, labor is the sole source of value. And once you take something and, mix your blood with the soil, you have magically produced some type of value. There's definitely a lot of people who hold that position. But then there's also a more serious version of the conversation being had apparently in academia and other institutions. And there are people that maintain the labor theory of value or a labor theory of value, but it's not so smooth brained. And I was engaging with it on that level for sure. And I think it's safe to say we're just kind of brushing it off without really seriously looking at it. And something happened, someone intervened, and we're doing our best to correct our mistake. I think ultimately it was a great service to this project, but all that's gone down. And if anything, it's strengthened my resolve in the direction I was already headed. But without that kind of feedback, that reinforcement from the real world, I definitely could have made a few wrong turns.
Which is all a way of saying that they're in the episode 8 of Capital Mondays. It says Sahil intervenes. And it's really just like, we were kind of getting to the point where we were just dunking on Fred Mosley and being like, this guy is not a close reader. He's not taking this seriously. What's up with these guys? Why don't they take people like Pistone seriously? And that's, as from the time that Daniel Tutt started talking about the value for Marxists, he was, throwing Pistone under the bus. And I remember being like, I love Pistone. What are you talking about? And it's very important. And if you actually watch the video where Sahil intervenes, I bring in the way that Pistone matters to me. And then Sahil's just like, absolutely. And like agrees with that. And then I was like, oh, okay. So there's complexity to this position. Now it is up to us and everyone else to kind of figure out if that's Sahil being a special kind of labor theorist of value, or if indeed this is representative of the kind of Mosley and Schwartz position. But I haven't had the time to read Schwartz. I'm over it. I don't want to reread Mosley right now. And yeah, so I feel like we're getting into stuff that we should have actually just saved for our sort of post game for Capital Mondays. But this is all ultimately to say that when you watch this video, we're a couple of assholes on a whiteboard and we're feeling pretty confident about the fact that you can't really be a good reader or a close reader and still come to this labor theory of value position. And I don't doubt that Sahil is a great reader, for instance. And so that's why we wanted to preface this video just to say that this was recorded prior to the intervention. So if we didn't say that, we put this out, someone could have watched that video and then this video in that order, and that would have made them think that we were actually passive aggressively dunking on Sahil. And that is not what we're trying to do. And that is the main reason we had to make this preface. Yeah.
Yeah. Sahil's a based king. Seriously, I that was a very good conversation, which surprised the hell out of me. I think he's a great thinker. I mean, he's very systematic, it seems, in his thought. He was just going and going and going and going and going. And again, like I think he has added a lot of value to this project. Yeah.
Well, and all of you guys do. All of you guys do. We've got like this nice little gang now, gang of Capital Mondays people. And so, you can get involved with it. Tier 3 and 4 subscribers get access to Capital Mondays every week. But also, you could just pay as a one-off to get involved with Capital Mondays. If you're too broke, but you've been going hard and you put the time energy where your mouth is, then fill out the scholarship form. There's a way to get involved. But we gotta make this thing to actually make it an institution and not just something that is a constant effort, but is actually becomes. It's like right now, like we didn't do Capital Mondays on Monday this week because I was too exhausted because I had to work at Amazon. It really is killing me at a certain point. And so the goal here in the next month is to go free of Amazon, to retire in a month. And so that means getting the subscriptions up. And so if you love this kind of thing, if you want to be in the live chat of these things, if you want to be in the seminar side of things, want to be able to do presentations of your own, the way that people do in the critical media theory cohort or in the critical doxology and time energy seminar, well, then there's a way for you to be able to get involved. If you can't do the scholarship, or if you don't want to do the scholarship and you've got the means, please get involved, because we're trying to make this a thing. That means me quitting Amazon first. Anything you want to say before we close this preface out?
Yeah, I do. This is like a huge project. This specifically Capital Mondays, but also a Theory Underground itself. It's a huge project. There's a lot of passion tied up in it. There's a lot of heart and soul poured into it. But to just say it's just a passion project, like fails, it is something real happening in the real world, and there is precarity. I have poured a lot of time and energy into it. I've also poured money I've had at my disposal into it, because I see the value. But that precarity is real. And like, if there are people out there who have the means and are dedicated, I would love for this to keep going until, long after I leave this cruel world. But we don't have an infinite money glitch, all those things, right? Just, I don't know. It's weird. It's awkward to talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable. It is what it is. But look, it's the real world. There's a lot of precarity tied up in this, and there are so many other projects that seemingly get all the love and support, and they're just trash. And like the amount of effort and dedication to what's actually supposed to be going on, right? The search for knowledge, the life of the mind, like all this stuff. We're trying. I'm not going to say it's actually going on, but we're actually trying to live up to those guiding lights. And yeah, it's like busking. Like I feel like
Dude,
busking.
it does feel like we're just like, it's so crazy. It's like that's why I always have to talk myself back down, by being like, no, like this is a real service. Like what the hell? Why do I feel like I'm out here begging or something? It's so funny. But
yeah, but it's gnarly. It's gnarly. Like I don't know, man. People pay thousands and thousands of dollars for education that they don't even take seriously. They're just like, whatever, I'm just doing this because it's a thing to be done, blah, blah, blah. And I get that. But like, this is unique, or at least very scarce, right? What's going on here. And of course, I don't know, the platform itself has its limitations, as far as like reach and market and all those things. But I don't know, at the end of the day, hey, like money. Hate to say it, but if you're out there, if you can, money.
Yeah.
Again, shit like this I do believe it will continue to go on regardless.
No,
but
it will not. It will not.
That's the thing. To say stuff like this, because for me, I'm obsessively studying. So from my perspective, it's easy for me to get confused between what's really going on, because this is obsessive study, but it's also the fact that it's a collaborative work, and we're communicating and we're interacting with others, and like that is unique, and that will not continue to go on without material support.
The you studying thing is going to go on either way, but yeah, the medium in its current articulation or experimental form,
yes,
this is not sustainable when just the two of us are paying for it, which right now, the two of us are paying for it. There's a handful of subscribers. There's a couple of patrons. I'll have a little video at the end of this talking about the Patreon. But no, for real. Okay, we're going to get out of the way with this. Get to it, everybody. Enjoy fucking, this whole like meta commentary about money realism is also fresh on our minds because we just wrote an article about the topic. You can check that out at my Substack. With that, peace. But no, now we're gonna do our own thing. We're gonna improvise, and so I wanted to bring it back really quick to the circuit of capital conversation and what I've got going on over here on the whiteboard, because impromptu lecture time is now, motherfuckers.
Hey, yeah.
let's go back to this. So we have the logic of capital, MC, M prime, C, M, C prime, just the circuit that goes on forever. Now, help me clarify this. Which one is from the standpoint of the capitalist and which one is from the standpoint of the, I'd say, worker, right? This is a distinction, right?
I think it is a distinction, but I don't know how, first of all, concrete and absolute a distinction it is. I also don't know how useful a distinction it is, the way people use it. But from the perspective of the capitalist, it is MCM prime. And from the perspective of the worker / consumer, it would be CMC prime.
See, when I wrote this,
and
I felt like I might have been fucking up, and I was fucking up. So basically, got to replace job with profit and profit with job. So that's what I was doing. So here we go. So, wait, I just did it again. So profit is on the level of MCM prime. So profit-centric versus job-centric. And so, what we have here is a distinction between two standpoints within a capitalist society. Do you use your money to buy things, or do you use your money to grow more money? Right?
Yeah, or are you in the situation of selling your labor power so that you can get more money, so that you can purchase the products that you need and also desire? Or are you in the position of having quote unquote disposable money that you can spend to purchase more commodities, labor power included, so you can magically generate more money through the fetishized process of value?
Right. And so that's why we have here, actually, I should probably make my side bigger and your side smaller. Let me fix that really quick, because I realized on the screen side you're all big, and that's probably, we want the whiteboard to be a bit bigger now. So I'm gonna fix that, trade our spots here. People in the chat, are you excited to see this whiteboard? Like, you should be, because it's been a long time coming. I've been really, really stoked for this for a long time. But I have to fix it. It's all like, here, gotta go like this. Boom, gotta make it bigger for you all. There we go. Oh shit, son. You see that up there? Does everybody see that up there? This is an art.
Yo.
It's an art thing I made. Do you see that, everybody? This is Timenergy becoming money, and then just turning it back into capital prime, which is to say, people like this family in the image, they're losing their time energy as it's siphoned away by the accumulation of capital. So that's that's why that's up there. So now you all are in on the secret. I don't know if we can call it real art. It was an experiment. I used Midjourney. It's not real art, but it is.
That's what makes it art, dude. The fact that it's experimental. That's why it is art.
Yeah, dude. Like, non-artists experimenting with art is the real art project. Fuck that shit, dude. No, I am an artist, but it's just not my main thing.
Yeah, dude. Like the category artist itself, or the label artist itself. Oh no, the camera died. Kind of defeats the purpose of art. So yeah, welcome to the stream, everybody, where technical difficulties are a mainstay.
Yeah, we're back. So this camera can go for 45 minutes before it turns off, but it can also turn off after 10 minutes. And we've spent like 40 minutes in the settings trying to get that fixed, and whatever, it doesn't matter. So if anybody wants to send us a newer camera that has better settings, be my guest. But in the meantime, so bringing it back around, so the logic of capital versus the logic of time energy, because I appreciated that Daniel is incisive enough of a reader to be able to see that it is a different logic altogether, and that it actually is a logic that if people value time energy alone, and were to prioritize it over a lot of other bread and butter concerns that are prerequisites for time energy nonetheless, it would actually undermine the circuit of capital to some degree. We're not saying that would cause it to break down. That wouldn't cause necessarily, like, say, a revolution. It wouldn't necessarily blah, blah, blah. Like, there's all kinds of limitations on that statement, but it is, nonetheless, as an alternative logic, also a way of thinking about ways of doing things differently. And so I'm going to write here the logic of capital. And since, okay, this is impromptu, right? Like, I'm going to go ahead and just say, we were just talking with Daniel Garner about Ivan Illich, and we never really got into the tools of conviviality. He did touch on shadow work, the kinds of work that we do in the background to be able to make things go, which is obviously, it became very popular in the wages for housework movement with people like Federici, Caliban and the Witch, stuff like that, which is all getting at something important, but also kind of insane. And I think that Gores is very good for critiquing this conclusion by that tendency of feminists. That's not to say that the critique is not correct. The critique is correct. Housework is not respected. Housework is the prerequisite for the reduction of time, energy, into labor power. Absolutely, of course. But the issue is the idea of wages for housework. Yeah, this is where you actually have people like Joseph Biden advocating for people need more maids. People need more houseworkers to come in and help so that they can parent, or so that women can achieve equality by spending more time in the workplace, right? Of course, oh my God, it just turned off again. This piece of shit camera. Anyway, so I was writing the logic of capital a second time. I meant to say time energy down here. So let's just put the symbol for time energy. Boom. The logic of time energy. Now, this is obviously something that we're playing with behind the scenes a lot, and there's a lot of nuances to it that we're not going to get into right now. But the long and short of it is that for those of us caught up in either the profit or job-centric sides of a capitalist society where money is for you pretty much a medium for the accumulation of capital and really just growing money, versus people who it's really just a way to get your means of subsistence and maybe like pay for some Netflix subscriptions or whatever the fuck you're into. This is the trap. This is the prison. This is what we're in, right? And Illich has this idea of tools of conviviality that Andre Gores uses, and he uses it to think about the difference between types of work. And so beyond this distinction between waged work and unwaged shadow work, which Illich gets to, Gores actually talks about a very, very important distinction, which is heteronymous work. I'm just going to do het. I'm not going to sit here and write it out because I'd probably misspell it anyway. Het versus autonomous. So I'm just going to like that. Okay? Heteronymous versus autonomous forms of work. And then the autonomous
Camera's down again.
Oh my God, why is it turning off every second now?
Might be overheating.
And if you want to come in here and click it every time it dies instead of listening from the other room, you are definitely welcome to join the room. She's always welcome, but now more than ever. So anyway, so yeah, we got heteronymous versus autonomous forms of labor. And why does he make this distinction, Nance?
Because that kind of describes the sphere of necessity, socially necessary reproductive labor time, and it also describes like what can be thought of as like creative power, creative time. That heteronymous labor is the stuff that exists within the sphere of necessity and can be automated, can be improved to the point where it's bearable. Because right now, like, there are people in the world who spend their entire life, all of their time energy is dumped into doing nothing but heteronymous labor, and there are like scarcely few people who spend almost their entire life in this world of autonomy where they can virtually do whatever it is the fuck they want to do, and that rests on the masses being consumed in this heteronomous labor. But nailing down that distinction in the first place is important, because that gets you outside of a workerism, like where people talk about like the dignity of work. We are passionate people. We are some large part of us is defined by our purpose and our passions. But if you allow that to get confused with socially necessary reproductive labor, like then you're just going to have a job-centric society. Like, it is important to be productively engaged in some type of project, but if you think like heteronomous and autonomous labor are interchangeable, then you'll just be like, well, yeah, we'll give everyone jobs and it'll be okay. No, we don't want to just give everyone jobs and have that be okay. Like, yes, we understand at some level there is this necessity that we can't escape. You can't escape socially necessary reproductivity. But if you minimize that and you try to maximize this sphere of autonomy, then you can really let people experience maybe not the dignity of work, but the dignity of creativity, or the dignity of autonomous productivity. And there goes the camera once again. Damn, son.
That's cool. That's cool. We got, hey, like people can, you know, Carl might be right. This could all be performance art. And in which case, you know, we actually, there is this conspiracy theory going around the Theory Underground circuit that all of the technical difficulties is actually just performance art. And so Nance and I spend a lot of time rehearsing these problems and actually...
And Anne's not in on it, though. That's...
Anne isn't in on it. It's all a way of pranking her, in fact.
Yeah. And you just got punked.
Yeah. Oh, and yeah, at the point that you're ready to settle down, if you want to just sit there and click the button every time that camera turns off, you'll be welcome. Oh, sure. Super welcome. Yeah. She's kind of just like the prank continues, she says. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so we've got Timenergy. It gets collapsed into labor power. It gets collapsed into a commodity on the market. Now, of course, part of the point of all of this post-Marxist stuff like Gores and Pistone and Heinrich is that to decommodify the commodity form by simply saying exchange is not going to be allowed or we're going to abolish markets doesn't actually get rid of it in sort of it puts it into a trench coat. It takes the reification of it to a whole new level, and it doesn't get us outside of the job-centric society issue. And so, you know, that's what I'm symbolizing up here. And, oh, fuck. My Stream Deck got unplugged. There's so many things I'm learning about this space and using it as a classroom. Are you having fun watching us fuck around and improvise while we wait to see if Ashley will show up? Because this is ultimately what we're doing. We're filling time, but we're giving you a little glimpse of some of the fun stuff we're working around in the background here. And so, anyway, so this is your job-centric life. But of course, there are also people who are very lucky. They're like Frederick Engels. They are trust fund babies. And maybe they still have to show up and oversee, manage to some degree. Who knows? And they probably don't like that. That's probably a shitty job. And so in that sense, maybe it is also job-centric for them. But their job is centered around the accumulation of profit itself. Not just this simple exchange of their time and energy into labor power, but actually they have to kind of, their care and concern is kind of tied up in this MCM prime circuit, right? Well, such people do not get to have passion. Such people do not get to have passion for anything that is meaningful in life. And so what is ultimately meaningful in life, right? That's part of this question and part of what I wanted to do. And I think the lecture I'm going to be giving in a little bit here this is just a sort of preface to the lecture that I'll be giving in a little bit here. Sorry, it's on now, but Ann just popped in. Every time it goes off, you just got to click this center button, and then it will be, yeah. Yeah, so you got to hang out of here because the YouTube is like 15 seconds behind. So anyway, so the lecture I'm going to get into is about time energy and trying to be a whole person, trying to balance all of these things I was going over earlier, like multilingualism, music, intellectual comprehensive limits. That's why I keep making these Goggins fanboy call-out videos for my YouTube shorts, is like to remind these guys who are like, oh yeah, but can you lift a boat? Hey, but can you do 10,000 pull-ups? Hey, what about, can you run 100 miles in 24 hours? Hey, can you deadlift 450 pounds? No, stop being a bitch, making excuses and get back to the gym. And it's like, we respect it, guys. We respect the mindset. We really genuinely do. We have a similar mindset when it comes to pushing our capabilities. We're just not pushing only one. See, this is the only one here. This is the physical fitness and health one that is being pushed. And I would say they're even pushing the physical fitness so far that they forget about health. Goggins is pushing the physical fitness, and he is doing it despite his health, or in spite of his health. He's hurting himself. Like when he ran 70 miles without any training, he hadn't been really running very much that year, and then he ran 70 miles. His toenails all fell off. He was shitting and he was pissing blood down his sweatpants and shitting his pants. And then he goes and he tells people, well, you just got a poopy pants attitude. You see, it's like, I like it. I like the pep talk, drill sergeant, man. But the issue is that you're actually pooping your pants now, bro. Like, you're actually destroying your health. You're wrecking yourself. So the idea of being human. I'll pass this back to you in a second here, Nance. I just had to close out like 2 threads. The idea of being human here is of balancing all of these things. Not just bulking out on the physical, but being able to maintain not just health, but also being, then you're just a granola person. Come on. No, and not just networking and being a soci. Not just music and dance and shows and, performance or playing. That's all wonderful. If you're doing that, then fucking amazing. But also like multilingualism and being able to practice all of these these language skills. But taking your intellectual and your comprehensive abilities to their limits is probably the hardest of all of these things to do. Like, I could see doing yoga and dance and jujitsu in a week while also working. But to be able to take on being in time and totality and infinity and Kant's critique of pure reason and Hegel's phenomenology of spirits and the science of logic and Lacan's seminars, and being able to do that in a way that brings it into conversation with our current situation and how things have changed since these guys. That's the real issue. That's a real task at hand, and it's a challenge. And of course, people go, I don't have a time energy for that. I wrote the book on it, and of course, you don't have the time energy to read the book, apparently. Of course, I think Daniel will kind of help you see in the previous segment that you kind of do. This idea that you need to rest up, this obligation every night at 5 p.m. to wind down, or at 8 p.m. or at 10 p.m., whatever it is, you start winding down. It's this obligation that has been schooled into you. And of course, there's this part of us that rebels against it and that stays up and scrolls TikTok or whatever. There's this rebellion against that bedtime and knowing that you need to get to bed. So every night you're like, well, I need to get to bed. And then you're like, but I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to scroll. And so the critical media theory class that we're doing together at the seminar, it's an ongoing monthly thing. It's ultimately about extricating ourselves from that situation, getting a little bit more freedom with our devices. And then I'm gonna hand it back to you here in a second. And that's just to say, it all comes down to being a person, to reclaiming our humanity. Samuel Loncar is going to be joining us at 1500, 3 o'clock, 3 p.m. Eastern time. And he'll be talking about becoming human and New Year's resolutions. And ultimately, I want to just talk about this right now, just to remind everybody that this is the time that is supercharged with motivation, and you're being told you can do everything, and you know that you can't do everything. And so ideologically, we need time energy theory to dismantle the New Year's resolution ideology, but also we need, in a sort of sense, to still instrumentalize our lives, and we still need to have goals, and we still need to try to find purpose and passion outside of the job-centric life. And that means cheating and cutting corners and streamlining and hacking and helping, and that's what it's all about. All right.
I think with Goggins specifically, but like that tendency in general to just overdo it and like put all your eggs in one basket, and the fact that it becomes self-destructive, I think that like that itself is kind of complex. Like, first of all, it's you like burning off this excess. Like you're on the right track with this mindset of like go hard, but like somewhere you're still aware of the fact that you're only going hard in one direction. So you still have this like excess I don't know, drive or whatever it is. So you overcome and you start to like harm yourself. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Like I think you should take things a little bit too far. You just shouldn't put everything in, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And that's kind of what we're trying to do. But just because it can be slightly self-destructive doesn't necessarily make it a bad thing. I also think it's interesting because there's this idea of like rebellion against the body itself. I think having a body is a horrible thing. Being trapped in a body is a terrible thing. The worst thing about being a human is being trapped in our bodies. So maybe there's like a little bit of desire to rebel against the body itself and do things that are destructive. I definitely think there's a lot of like drug habits that come from that. I know myself in my past, my drug habits have been not only trying to escape, but also that little bit of like self-destructive potential contained in a drug habit was also like an added benefit of having drugs. Or of doing drugs. But I think, I don't remember exactly what we were talking about the other day, but like we ended on keep it a little sketchy or whatever. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, like we should
we ended it on, we should be able to be a little sketchy some of the time.
Yeah. Like, having everything nice and safe and secure and neatly packaged up into easily consumable and thus easily marketable packages of, oh, I am one who runs, I am one who lifts heavy objects, I am one who reads a lot of books. Like it's all just like you're still just consuming your category at that point. Having the ability to deal with the messy shit that like we're messy creatures. Human life itself is messy. And if you can't stomach a little bit of danger, whatever your specific species of danger is that's related to whatever project it is you're tied up in, then you're failing because you're just trying to fall back and do the thing I want to safely consume from a distance. But no, like Cadell the other day, that conversation we were having, like we are messy and we need to embrace the messiness. I like it a lot. So like, I don't want to dunk on Goggins and say, look, he's harming himself. I think it's a good thing to harm yourself to a small degree. Now I'm not going to, like, I definitely don't take that too far. People on the internet, don't go harm yourselves. Do something that has the potential to harm you. I guess.
Well, this is, my presentation that I'll be doing on tour. One of them is the LaComfort crisis. It's a Lacanian. It's taking Lacan into like this idea where the real, in some sense, is something only discoverable through resistance, and that resistance is the application of force on the world and trying to change things. And the resistance you meet teaches you lessons. And if you go into activities that are difficult and all it does is confirm your hypothesis and give you a renewed sense of, oh, you already have it all figured out, then you're not in the real. This is a self-delusion. The real can only be something that challenges your symbolic conceptualization and the way things apparently are, via the imaginary or the perspectival. And so the idea is, outside of the job, you're supposed to be consuming comfort. You're supposed to be resting. You're supposed to be enjoying. You're supposed to be watching exhilarating or funny movies. You're supposed to be taking all of these like libidinal leftovers from the work week and giving them some kind of outlet, and ultimately so that you can achieve some kind of comfort, some kind of pleasure, which is the opposite of passion, which is the opposite of jouissance, which is the opposite and runs contrary to our drive itself. And so, I mean, bringing it back here with all of this. So this is the circuit of capital. We go time energy. We all have large energy infused repeatable blocks of time, but it's not just we all as individuals, but specifically like the individual is a made up idea in the first place. Like at a certain level, there is truth to the fact that all of this comes from some kind of collective communitarian belonging in this, not in this one-to-one identity and we could be whole again kind of sense that the people who look backwards or whatever the fuck mean. No, but the baby in that bathwater is just to say that time energy is a communal resource. Every society is structured and can be understood as a way of structuring time energy itself. Oh, these people don't have to work and they just get to read books, and then they're going to tell the priests what to think, and then the priests will tell the people what to think, right? Oh, and ultimately it will serve the king, right? Or, and of course everyone else stays working except for a handful of retainers and people who like exchange gifts and do weird war game preparation bullshit stuff like the aristocracy traditionally did. But where most people have to work. Well, we still live in a job-centric society. We just don't have so much of a center to it, and it's all dispersed out. And there are people who want to bring everything back to some kind of a center, some kind of a central ideal. And whether they're putting God in that place or they're putting some kind of like an idea like the nation state or the Volksgemeinschaft, the race, the community, the racial community, whatever it is that they're doing, I think that's all a bunch of bullshit. It's ideological, but there is like this idea though that we, without one another, would have to do everything ourselves. And it's one thing to read, Robinson Crusoe. It's another thing to actually go do it. And guess what? The one thing he wasn't able to do was to read great ideas that came from outside of him. One thing he wasn't able to do was to practice on a musical instrument that would have cost thousands of dollars, if not he doesn't have the technology on his little island to do that, right? So, we have this little thought experiment of being like a Robinson Crusoe and being a self-possessed person who can like build their own house, farm their own food, blah, 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 blah. Everything's Minecraft. Think about Minecraft. It's all from this individual standpoint. But in terms of time energy, it's just like, okay, yeah, you can do everything yourself, but also you can't. Like that's part of the lie of consumerism and of working. You have this idea that, well, I'm a labor power and you're all labor powers and we all exchange labor power and then we consume labor power. And so we're all part of the circle jerk of exchanging, exploiting, and consuming labor power. And that's the feast that we're all involved in. And so we can all have everything everywhere all at once, but no, we can't because, I thought it turned off again. Because it all comes back to, we are not able to do the things that require time energy because the time energy itself is what's been fractured. So instead of large energy infused repeatable blocks of time throughout the week, what we have is garbage time, which is to say exhausted time, right? Which is what time energy becomes in a capitalist society when you're like this fragmented self. All you have is what Adorno called free time. And that's why someone in the chat earlier was saying, oh, okay, got it. You need free time to think. And I said, actually, free time is kind of the opposite of time energy. Free time, as we understand it, is recuperating time. And that's, Nance and I do an exegetical reading of Adorno's Free Time, which is an amazing piece that Mikey turned me on to a long time ago, because Mikey was always in on this the importance of free time, but not free time in any kind of a cheap sense, but more like what Daniel Tudd is talking about when he talks about otium, or what Nietzsche was talking about when he was talking about otium. All the aristocracy has ever cared about is otium and bellum, which is to say leisure time and war. And of course they want to keep the masses working, because the condition of their otium is everyone else working. But time energy is the structural condition, and I would say structural existential condition of what becomes this division between slavery and freedom, of what becomes the distinction between labor time and otium, or leisure time. And so time energy is supposed to take a step further back to understand the bigger picture and to get us outside of the logic of capital that reifies the labor form, or the value form, and what it presumes about our selves and our existence being a part of labor power. And so, I mean, really, in a sense, like, if value form Marxism doesn't help us do that, we can throw it out. We don't care. Ultimately, this is what we care about, and that's why we think the value form Marxism is important.
Yeah, and on that, it does keep coming up. It was interesting when Daniel Tutt brought it up, because it was like, oh, okay, that's what you want to call it. Our little back and forth with Ted Reese, that's fun, and it's fun, and in a way, it's like, oh, this is why I like these guys. This is why I like Heinrich. This is why I like Pistone, because they're doing this thing. But also, like, it's not about, oh, let's find another commitment to like cling to. Let's be value form Marxists instead of labor theory value Marxists. It's because what these so-called value form Marxists are talking about is getting outside of this structure of value itself as like this ontological category that is utilized by the circuit of capital. That's why it's interesting. It's not just because it's another flavor of Marxism. Oh, it's another thing. It's another category of person I can become. But these guys, quote unquote, these guys are talking about value in a way that, for me personally, and I assume for you, due to our conversations, makes sense, and already made sense before we even were like, oh yeah, we stumbled upon this value for Marxism. So
Exactly. It's
it's about getting outside of this, like, this reified fetish that is value itself, because there's something prior to that. And Marx discusses it. Like, to me, it's very clear that Marx is talking about the construct of value, but it seems like a lot of so-called Marxists are treating this construct as like just an ontological fact.
Paul Cockshott and Fred Mosley being two of the more active in this debate, who take the labor theory of value side of things, and then they like to point to certain pages. We would say, from where we stand now, and we can be corrected, out of context pages, where it's like, oh, look, Marx is saying the labor theory of value thing, so of course this is his position. And it's like, guys, you got to learn how to read Germans. Post-Hegelian Germans, anybody who's been, which is to say, not the people who think they can operate outside of Hegel, but who realize that, oh, immanent critique is valuable, and a sort of some kind of dialectical ideal of working through the contradictions and tarrying with the negative, like that kind of idea. If you don't read the Germans through that lens, then of course you come out just reading them, taking what they say on a page at face value, so that your foreconception, your kind of going in understanding of the entire book, then cherry picks the whole rest of the book in accordance with that kind of idea you have going in. Well, and it's not called the foreconception. Heidegger calls it the forehaving, which really he gets from Dilthey, who he gets it from Schleiermacher. But what the hermeneuticists are doing with this is the forestructure of understanding, which is to say, with every interpretation, there was already an idea going in of what its possibilities were. Then you read it with an eye to those possibilities, and then you developed your conception on that basis. And so you can, keep reading these guys in the boring way that our betters have been reading them, or you can actually try to read them hermeneutically, which is to say both deconstructively and hermeneutically. It's not an either or. There used to be a debate in academia over these two options, when neither one, properly speaking, is a simple method that can be applied. Both are challenges. Both are processes. Both are intrinsic to genuine reading itself. You cannot escape the task of a hermeneutical deconstruction. And you have to do it because you come in with your own conception that has to be, like Dale Gardner was saying, you suspend the assumption that they mean words the same way that you do. And that's not what a lot of people are taught in schooling. In school, they're like, this word means this thing, end of story, let's move on. And so no wonder we have stupid fucking evangelical fundamentalists interpretations of scripture or what have you. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, they're trying to mathematize all, knowledge and wisdom, because things that are mathematized are very easily dealt with in the logic of capital. It's like, that's, I don't know, that's a large part of what's going on is resisting this total instrumentalization of ideas, of concepts. But that's not to say taking it too far and doing like Byung-Chul Han would have us do and just become the idiot. And like, I think we have to maintain a balance. And that's why it took us, 6 hours to read one section of chapter 1 of volume 1 of Capital. Like, we're walking a fucking tightrope, and we're blind, and we're fucking stupid, and we're trying to do all this delicate work. And it's not as easy as just, oh yeah, let me read this 2,500 page book, or, collection of 3 books, if you will. Let me read it so I can say I've read it, so I can tell other people that they don't have to read it because I read it and they can trust me. It is about like, let's figure this shit out. Let's stop and smell the roses, so to speak. But instead of smelling roses, we're, tarrying with fucking ideas.
Right, and it didn't just
we have no idea. None of us has any idea of what the fuck is actually going on. And clinging to that surety that you do know what's going on is a surefire way to stay stuck exactly where you are.
Mm. Yeah, and this didn't just take us 6 hours to read that first chapter. First of all, we read the entire book in the past, volume 1 of that is, and then, obviously summaries of the rest of it, because who can get to the rest of Capital? It's like, you want to get onto other books. You can't have this take over your life. People who allow it to take over their lives sound like robots. And so obviously you want to be more balanced than that, and you want to be able to read other theorists and stuff like that. And so, you read volume 1 or parts of volume 1, and then you do summaries, and then you think that you're good. Well, instead, we've spent not 6 hours. I think it's more like 25 at this point. Let's be realistic. There's 5 videos in the playlist so far, and they range between 4 and 6.5 hours so far. And it's not just chapter 1, because reading chapter 1 required reading this book right here, which was Michael Heinrichs' book. Speaking of which,
camera's off.
Oh, son of a bitch. Anne, help. I think she's just like brushing her teeth and like getting ready for the day. So don't worry about it, Anne. We can deal with the technical difficulties. No one else seems to mind either. But, okay, bringing it back around here. I want to say something on the value form stuff, just to say, what we're saying is that Marx is, at least according to the value form Marxists, not out here saying that labor is the sole source of value. Actually, it is the exchange of commodities itself that is done vis-a-vis the idea of socially necessary labor time, which is the reification arche point. Like, all of it hinges on this idea. Yeah.
It's the entire process of valorization itself. Like, it's not just the act of productive concrete labor. Like it is the entire process itself. Like it's the process of valorization. Like that means valueization, right? It's production, it's circulation, it's consumption, it's need, it's all these things, and this idea that it's all interchangeable, we're all fungible, it's all reduced down to the lowest common denominator. That's why it works. And Marx is very plain in expressing all this stuff. The idea that he is this, vulgar labor theory thinker, I think is a foolish idea, because I don't think he is.
But it's something like I think we get excited about it because, without having read Smith and Ricardo, you think it's an original contribution. Without having read, the anarchist predecessors, Proudhon and the others, you think, oh, well, wow, labor really is a source of value. And of course, the reason it's so seductive is because it's the logic of capital, is the idea that ultimately all of our time energy can be rendered exchangeable between individual units of humanity on some kind of a world market. And then, of course, if you say, oh, we'll collectivize instead of individualize the labor power, it's the same fucking thing. You're still being like, this worker goes here, that worker goes there. We're going to have all the workers get distributed within the system. They'll be paid better. Hopefully, they'll actually get some kind of like healthcare and support system, blah, blah, blah. They'll get some kind of representation, recognition, stuff that we're supposed to be against in the first place because it's a dead end and it's easy to co-opt and it just lives in the simulacrum. But no, we're talking about how time energy gets killed, and the biggest way that it gets killed is by thinking of it in job-centric terms. So when people are all hustle and grind, instrumentalize, Byung-Chul Han responds with "Be an idiot, sit by the river." Byung-Chul Han's solution is Eckhart Tolle. Focus on the breath. Just breathe. Just sit there like a little frog on a leaf and breathe. It's the solution.
Be a flower.
And I'm like, how does that help me learn multiple languages? How does that help me learn to play multiple instruments? How does that help me do jujitsu and run and do strength conditioning? And how does that help me enter therapeutic spaces and check in with loved ones and do date nights, love rehab kind of work? That's work, guys. You have to show up for it. It can't be passive. That's what episode 1 of Workers of Amazon was all about. Check it out on Spotify or iHeartRadio or Podcast Addict or whatever the fuck you need to. But check out the conversation I had with Juan. He was all Goggins' mindset, and then he realized like there needs to be like part of the issue with that mindset is that it's all or nothing. If people are not on board, then they get cut out of the picture, and so it's really toxic for like a relationship that is supposed to be a nurturant relationship, because not everything about your family unit needs to be fully instrumentalized in this military boot camp style. But of course, most people, because of the comfort crisis, are so out of touch with actually taking on passions because of like meaningful purposes that it is exciting to hear him go on. And the fact is he's done more in his life than we will ever do, and it's because he doesn't care about getting in harm's way. And of course people call him a masochist, and of course people say he's a shouty asshole, but I mean, no, it's impressive what he's been able to do with himself. He's completely reinvented himself from someone who was like 400 pounds and failed out of boot camp to someone who could become a Navy SEAL and do the Ranger training and survive Hell Week 3 times within a short span of time, and then do like these 100-mile marathons and win the world record of pull-ups. Like, if you don't know about Goggins, you got to find out about it. Apparently, I'm just late to the game. Everyone else already knew. Nance was talking about it on tour. Stop being a bitch. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. There's a guy who's just on about that shit. And of course, people just think that he's like some kind of Andrew Tate. They're wrong. He's not. He actually he does have some respect for like human dignity that like Tate bros seemingly lack. And so, look, guys, it's about balancing these things, though. So ultimately bringing it all back around, it's balancing these things. And right now, you're being told, oh, well, you can be a yoga instructor, and she can be a philosophy professor, and he can be a doctor, and that person can be a cop, and we're all exchanging our labor power. And if you didn't do good at school, it's because you're just not as bright as the other ones. You're not as disciplined as the other ones. You're not as deserving as the other ones. So you're going to have to, instead of specializing, you're just going to be at this base level of reducing all of your time and energy into labor power, right? All you'll have left over is time and energy in its fractured sense. Fractured time is point time. It's not reliably repeatable, right? You can't do stuff with other people in a cooperative way or in a sustained hardcore way if you don't have reliable, repeatable time. You can't learn the violin in a day. You can't take on giant difficult thinkers on your own, especially not just with a single day or a random weekend here or there. You got to be able to show up day after day after day after day after day and get after it, right? So that's what it's all about. And this, bring it all back around, we're going to close, well, we don't actually have to close it. We're going to kind of reach a sort of halftime for this lecture, where we'll kind of step back, and then I'll lay out some more things. But I'm going to hand it over to Nance here in a second is what I'm trying to say. So the distinction between heteronomous and autonomous versus like cooperative forms of labor is something that I want to get back to because it was brought up earlier in the lecture, and because the camera died and I had written it too low down, nobody could see it. But now I think you can see it, right? Eyeballs? You got it?
Yeah, but there's a glare from the light that's covering up the het, which is okay. We're okay with head erasure, right?
Is this, yeah. Is that better?
That's better, yeah. So that word is het for anyone looking at the screen. Het versus aut or cooperative, which is heteronymous versus autonomous / cooperative, or those are the words.
Yeah. And so obviously, as Marx points out, capitalism is already one of the most cooperative ways human beings have ever existed on this planet. It's just cooperating within this sphere alone, which is the profit-centric / job-centric realm. And of course, you could replace profit with power and production, which is what the Soviet Union tried to do. It doesn't change the fact that it's still job-centric, though.
Or control for any, fellow delusions.
Yeah, you can replace it with control.
Power, profit. Mm-hmm. It's all kind of interchangeable in a way.
Yeah, these are all different ways of talking about the same fucking elephant. But the reason I do autonomous / cooperative is for ease of understanding, though it is like Gores talks about them as three separate things. Autonomous time is the precondition for being able to do things cooperatively with other people. So, outside of trying to build a resume and show that you do volunteer work, would you actually show up for your community garden? Would it actually be a part of your real life? Well, I guess we'll never know because we don't live in that world, do we? Right? People think, oh yeah, I volunteer there 3 times a year. Well, guess what? Outside of the fact that they're using you in the most minimal fucking way possible, you're not essential. You're exchangeable with other people. Now, if you prove to be reliable, if it actually becomes a significant part of your life, well then sure. Now you're part of the process. But you don't just become a part of the process by showing up and being able to write down in your resume that you did some volunteer work. Well, the cooperative garden is just an example. There's a million other ways of doing cooperative things. Now, of course, there is this approach that says, well, what we should have is a society that's run by cooperatives. This is where Richard Wolff is most popularly understood. Apparently, he's more nuanced in his books, but he does make it sound like we could go from capitalism to a cooperative workplace society, which doesn't get us outside of the problem, right? Well, I think that the point that Gores is trying to make is that we can dignify this impulse. We can dignify this idea that people want to have, like, hey, if we want to have a coffee shop and it's got a theater stage in the back and we've got a study space and a lecture hall and it's all like hybrid and somehow hooked up to the Theory Underground like we want to do this, and we want to do it cooperatively. Like Mikey, he's going to be like, he's got a place that he shows up, and then he just like tutors people in philosophy. He teaches like an introductory course every year, and then he teaches special topics if he wants to, if it's going to help him with his research. Otherwise, the rest of the time he's just researching there at the coffee shop. In that world where he's able to do that, and Anne's able to be organizing theater in the theater side of things, but also running the coffee shop side with some other people, and I'm able to focus on the lectures and the organizing, and Nance, I don't know what you're doing, but it's probably exactly what we're doing right now. We're just fucking doing this, and you're probably teaching a Lumen course and shit like that year. In that like utopian cooperative model, of course, we love to play these kinds of games. We know that it's not possible right now. Like, we know it's utopian in the sense that we don't have time energy right now. We know that we ultimately have to do this reduction to socially necessary labor time on the basis of what our means of subsistence actually cost. Right? So we do this thought experiment where we justify our own exploitation on the basis of what is socially necessary in order to be able to make whatever it is that we think we need to be able to make to be able to live whatever kind of lifestyle that we think that we're trying to live as consumers, which is great. I don't care. That's not the point. The point is that we can't do the cooperative thing, but we also can't do the autonomous thing. All right? And without the autonomous thing, you don't have the cooperative thing. It's not genuinely cooperative if you don't have autonomy, which is why there's the realm of heteronomy. And currently, whether you're doing yoga or you're a professor or you're a dump truck driver or you're a doctor, a lawyer, it doesn't matter what you are. If you're cleaning out toilets for 15 years or whatever, Nance, I forget exactly how that biographical detail goes, but you're cleaning toilets for a while. And that's all considered heteronomous labor. Now, in reality, not all of those things are as necessary as we think that they are. The yoga instructor would still do it if he or she wanted to. In a society that has restricted the realm of heteronomous labor to those things that really are socially necessary. That means we cut out Hannah Montana or Taylor Swift bobbleheads from the world of production. That means that we cut out the bullshit jobs David Graeber is talking about in his book, where people feel the soul suckiness of reality. They might be PMC or not, who knows? They're definitely not part of the standard working class, and they fucking hate their lives because they know that everything they're doing is bullshit. But also, at a certain level, there's all these struggling pizza shops in existence, and only so many of them are actually good. And the ones that are struggling, they're like, well, we're really putting food on the table for people. And it's like, really? Are you? Would you be doing that?
That shitty pizza shop I ate in Boise under the fucking bridge by the skate park. That place sucked, dude.
Would you really be running that business if you didn't have to? Would you really be a yoga instructor if you didn't have to? Would you really be running that shitty pizza shop if you didn't have to? Look, I want amazing pizza experiences, but there are people who would do it even though they don't have to. And that's why we got to figure out what actually belongs in this restricted realm of heteronomous labor so as to structurally free up time energy. And you do that to some degree with labor power. And it's, a conversation I'm looking forward to eventually having with Catherine Liu. She's defined the PMC as, to some degree, being people who think that all real work can be automated out of existence. And I think that most of the PMC does not think that way at all. But there is a tendency on the left, a very particular kind of utopian left, that thinks, oh, everything could be autonomous and cooperative. Nothing needs to be heteronomous. Everything heteronomous could be automated. And that's just not true. You got to have robots making robots, making robots, making robots. And at a certain level, there's just going to be shitty jobs. Hopefully, people don't have to clean out those toilets. But if they fucking do, it shouldn't be their whole life. And there's no reason that a philosophy professor or a yoga instructor doesn't have to clean some toilets every once in a while. People act like this was the worst part of Mao's Cultural Revolution, was telling intellectuals get out in the fields. And I'm like, That's like the one part that's kind of cool though. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, dude.
That's my favorite part. What's everyone's problem with that part? Of course, it didn't look very beautiful, and it kind of backfired, and it wasn't done in a way that could really challenge things. But experiments, man, experiments. We love experiments here, and so yeah. So that's what I would call part one of this lecture that is going to continue here for another 40 minutes. But I just wanted to hand it over here. Let Nance kind of say some stuff while I put some more things on the board.
I think like a way to explain this idea of like heteronymous labor, like people turn it into a workerism. People tend to think, oh yeah, it's okay. Like if everything is just like a syndicate or, you know, a bunch of unions or firms or whatever word they want to use for it. If everyone can voluntarily associate, then they'll just do the jobs that need to be done. And that's freedom. Like they don't ever actually entertain the idea that there's anything outside of the realm of necessity, the sphere of necessity. And I think like making that distinction between heteronymous and then autonomous and cooperative projects, work, labor, I don't know, whatever it needs to be called, really does allow you to communicate with not just leftists, but, you know, people
Normal
from all walks of life, from all persuasions. Yeah. Normal people. Yeah. Normal people in real life, not just people on the internet who already know all the words and already have commitments and are just doing this thing for the sake of doing the thing itself, not because they're actually interested in any long-term projects. I think it's great. I think it's radical to really design a rhetoric that gets to the masses or everyday people, normies, whatever. I think that's radical. I think it's something that needs to be done. And I think if you're not willing to do it, then I think you're part of the problem, which is weird. And it kind of goes back to something that it's always bothered me. I've always really wanted to ask him about it, and I've never had time. Like every time we're talking, we run out of time before I remember to ask him. But when Patron talks about like you're either left or like if you're not left, then you're necessarily right or reactionary or whatever. Like dude, every time we talk to him, I always forget to ask him, but I have big problems with that statement. I have big problems with that sentiment. And I want to ask him what he means by that, because I've never really heard him really expound upon it.
Oh, hold on.
I want to ask him because I have faith that
Can we get an earbud on you? Here, actually, here.
hold
on one sec, Nance. Don't talk. You're wasting your breath. Anne can't hear you, and she's more important than all these people in the live chat. Just kidding, guys. You're all more important than my wife.
Haha. Sucker.
That's the real joke. Okay, here we go. You can connect those to your phone, and then you can listen to.
My hero.
Wait, but you have to just get in the call, actually. So it's just the. Sorry, Nance. One sec. We're going to make it so that Anne is able to hear you without having all of the same old Bluetooth problems that we always have. Here, I'm going to send you the Zoom link right here. There we go. All right. I need that music for the elevator, you know? Like the elevator music. Yeah.
Bing bong, bing bong, bing bong, bing. That's Jeopardy.
So he's bing bong bing ba-ding bong bing, or something.
Bing, bong.
So
Just keep going for now.
Anne said just keep going for now. Okay, turning it back over to you there, Nance. Sorry to interrupt.
No, I think on Catron, like I have faith that he doesn't have like a foolish, smooth-brained position, which is why like I really want to talk to him in depth about it. But I do think that's a very smooth-brained position that a lot of people tend to have, especially people on the internet who consume left media, or even, I don't know, ostensibly centrist media or whatever. Like people just, they reify this power struggle between left and right. And I think that's kind of silly. We should be thinking, as came up earlier, temporally and even multidimensionally, up, down, left, right, forward and backward in time. But I think that the heteronymous distinction really allows you to explain it to people. Like you can explain that to normies who haven't spent years reading books or consuming content or even thinking about stuff politically. All they know is work. They spend all their time working, and what little time they have left, they regret. They regret not being able to actually dive into projects and follow their passions. And you can explain the problem. You can explain what the fuck is really going on to them with the idea of heteronomy versus autonomy and the idea of time energy. Instead of just always kind of going back to labor power, labor time, labor value. No, this is real, like, problem-oriented thinking, solution-oriented language, and I like it a lot. And it's funny that there have already been people that have tried to just say, oh, post left. Oh, you guys aren't really doing much. Oh, what did that person say? You guys are just a taste. We're a taste association.
That was Catrone.
No.
Oh, no. No, Catrone didn't say it. It was the guy who said, "I'm only here for Catrone. You guys really are just tastemakers, bunch of theory bros." That's what it was.
Yeah.
There we go.
I think it's funny. I mean, hey, that's cool. Maybe that person will hate watch. Maybe they're invested libidinally, because they felt the need to make that comment. I do think there is some libidinal investment there. Maybe they're watching this right now, and if that is the case, and you think we're wrong about everything, come join one of the courses or join one of the cohorts or the groups and explain how we're wrong and what we're wrong about. Because I would, like, if I am wrong, I would like to know, because I would like to not be wrong. And first of all, I know I'm always going to be wrong until the end of time, because it's an ongoing process and there's no such thing as absolute knowing. But I would like to be less wrong. So if we are wrong, which I don't think we are, that's the thing. Like, but if we are, come tell us.
Tell us that we're wrong about being wrong, because that's our position.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a weird
Yeah.
it's a weird position to have. But then people think, no, but you're wrong for this really facile, really stupid caricature that I'm putting on you. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, keep doing that. Keep perfect, Ann. And save the day. Good job. Thank you. So Ann's the man. That's right. She really is. And I don't know, Nance, just looking at this whiteboard here with stuff that I've added onto it, I just wanted to kind of give you an opportunity to sort of like free associate here. But also, like, okay, so in terms of heteronymous versus autonomous and cooperative, like, how many of these things that we love are actually kind of ruined because they've been done in the realm of heteronymous as opposed to autonomous or cooperative?
All of it, dude.
Passion
Like,
projects.
everything that can be packaged and sold gets ruined by the form, gets ruined by the fact that it is commoditized. Mental health, that's one that I can see right there. That gets fucking destroyed because it gets turned into this functionalistic ego psychology, instrumentalized, will get you back to okay enough to go back to work. Like, mental health is a serious thing. It's a real problem. It's a thing we all contend with. And it's a thing that can be debilitating if it goes fucky on you. And it should be taken seriously. We should have the ability to really like investigate for ourselves and with other people who are able to just get better, like to be good enough to go out and live a good life rather than being healthy enough to just get back to work. But that's what it always comes back down to. It always comes back down to getting you healthy enough to be a productive consumer. And that's it. It's horrible.
At this point, the only thing that I've done positively or I'd say not the only thing, the main thing I've done positively for my own mental health ever since I realized I should be careful. Like, I don't know. I think everybody, when they grow up, at some point they realize there's limits to things. Like, you need sleep. You shouldn't just experiment with psychedelic drugs all the time. You should practice critical thinking instead of just entertaining big ideas, right? Like, there's just certain things that if you're not being careful, it necessarily leads to mental health crises of various sorts. And so, anyway, I'd say the most helpful thing I've done in terms of the mental health stuff, outside of being critical of blah, 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 it's avoiding people where this is their end-all, be-all community. Mm-hmm. It is my number one thing. It's like, I'm never going to be that guy who's out here on the internet saying, look, if you got mental health problems, stay the fuck away. But if you come here and blow up the spot and make it all about that, yeah, it's going to be a problem, because we've got a problem with therapy culture, therapism, psychiatry, like go down the line. These are all problems. They're not easy to sort through. There's a lot of sophisticated tools necessary for being able to have those conversations in a mature way. People who come in and try to turn the space into what they imagine a good mental health group kind of space is going to be like. I don't like it. I don't want to be a part of it. And I don't like the problems that come from it. And biggest thing is like, in a sort of sense, like if I'm spiraling out and then you have the potential to spiral out, then you actually might start spiraling out when I come around you, right? Like, we have to try to find healthy people and center them in our lives. And if your family's toxic for you, or if whatever, like, then find healthy people. I don't care where you make it, you've got to find them. Get the fuck out of that situation. But the same thing is true with everything else. Look, the one beneath this says presence. The one that beneath it, I'll hand it back to you in a second here, Nance, but the one that says presence, I have that for my own New Year's goals, being yoga, catwalking, and slacklining. Okay. And of course, there's like some breath work and some kind of focusing and some kind of like stepping away from all of the busyness of your life and all the things that you're juggling. So that's part of presence. But the catwalking, by the way, is like one of the most Zen activities you can possibly do. I'll tell you about it later. But as far as slacklining and yoga and meditation kinds of practices go, each one becomes a sort of suffocating, stifling, and like, I don't know, like it's a worst kind of community ever. Like I've tried to find one where I'm like, yes, I can do the thing here, but it's never the thing, because the thing gets turned into some kind of like idol. And so almost every one of these, because of the industry, because the people who specialize and obsess and just do the one thing all the time, it gets ruined. And of course, I think there's probably good people, that's why they call us theory bros, is they think that there's too much machismo in this space, there's too many men, there's too much obsessional energy is a neurotic male kind of tendency. It's not always male, but it is dominated by dudes, I guess, kind of like us. And I don't fucking think that's always a bad thing. I love that Anne is always saying, it's not exactly a bad thing. It's not necessarily bad. But obviously it can degenerate into something bad. And that's why, it's interesting to have like guys like Cadell and Owen on earlier, because they talk about having done men's work. And those men's work circles can really turn into super toxic spaces as well. Or they turn into a bunch of little cuck boys jacking each other off. I don't give a shit. I don't like the two sides of it. If it's Andrew Tate versus fucking Thought Slime, I don't want it. And so it's like, this is about balancing all of these things that require pushing yourself up against certain kinds of discomfort. And they're all different kinds of challenges, all different kinds of resistance, all different kinds of discomfort. And each one gets co-opted by the commodity form. Each one becomes a be-all, end-all thing that's supposed to get you back to work. And ultimately, we should be able to do them all. But we can't when they are serving heteronymous labor. There you go, Ness.
Just like, I guess to stay with the mental health for a minute, but it does apply to everything. Everything on the board and everything not on the board. Like when people take a feature or a fact about themselves and they try to turn it into the most interesting thing about them. Like, I think that's probably something we can all relate to. There's some people that I've interacted with. I'm sure there's some people that everyone has interacted with where you just can't fucking stand them because all they ever do is they talk about this one fact or feature. Like, just their entire world is mediated through one thing. Be it mental health, be it gender, be it background, be it ethnicity, be it ability, be it whatever. Like, you just can't fucking stand these people because they suck, because they have no dimensionality. Like, that way of interacting with the world and interacting with the social is forced upon us by the commodity form itself. Because commodities need to be discrete things that they have to be nice and neatly packaged up into easily marketable boxes. They can't stand this difference. Why is Ann hiding?
Hiding. So you're
That's a dope pin.
doing busy work. Thank you.
It's Anne's doing busy work and managing the camera, but I wanted
listening.
to, and she's listening with rapt attention. I just wanted to point out though, Anne, that all you have to do if you do want to pop in. Oh shit! Now Nance can't see us at all.
No, yeah, I
you-
can't see you, dude.
Yeah, let's start the video, and then hold on. Oh, here we go. So we go like this. Okay, there we go. Yeah, but anyway, so Anne, theoretically, you will in the future be able to, when you want, chime in by changing the camera to that other one, and then making it so that you show self view, and then everyone will be able to see you. Just unmute and you can talk. I just wanted Anne to know she has the capacity, the virtual
Thank you,
capacity,
thank you.
yeah, to be able to do it whenever she wants. So, okay, sorry, Nance. Oh my God, this fucking camera is killing Anne because she's sitting here trying to write letters and she can't get through like a word writing the address onto one of these Christmas cards without having to.
It's okay.
Talk about the shadow work that goes on in the background. This is a perfect example of shadow work. The fact that she's filling out Christmas cards. The people who get these cards are going to have pictures of us on their fridges all year long. So instead of forgetting that I exist, they'll remember, oh yeah, Dave exists in this beautiful relationship with Anne. And then they'll love us and they'll send thoughts our way and then we'll catch up and it'll be like nothing has happened. They'll be like, they'll know that they're in our thoughts as well. And that's because she's doing this right now while we're obsessing out doing this fucking thing. And so, you know, it really is shadow work, you know, and it really is amazing. And so I just wanted to highlight it for a second. Yeah, of course.
It is amazing, and it does create space to be able to obsess, you know, do long sessions of reading books and having theoretical conversations. It creates the space to be able to do that and also have something of a normal life, because without Anne doing all that work, like you wouldn't have these relationships. Like the maintenance of the relationships does tend to fall on our partners as obsessive males, and that is something that often gets taken for granted.
Dude, Anne is like my litmus test. People who don't appreciate her or treat her like she's fundamental when they meet us on tour, like it's obvious, and it's just like, oh, okay, I'll remember that. Fuck you. You know, you don't get it. You don't get what this is. But and it's just like, because they want to treat it like, oh, well, this is like a public intellectual existing in a sphere outside of the private. And it's just like, yeah, no, but there's also like this in-between space between those things that we're all kind of stuck in. And part of the underground is being stuck in this place where we never have privacy, we never have the public, we don't have the possibility of the public. In fact, there's no possible serious avenues towards genuine recognition of our achievements in most of these realms. So, I mean, you would, for instance, if we were saying theater, add that into sort of this musical side of things, if you don't dedicate your life to it, then you really aren't going to be able to do it for real. It's like in a society that was not heteronymous centric, where more people could do theater, it wouldn't just be community theater versus professional Broadway. There would be this flourishing of other kinds of theater that are developing already. They're developing because Anne's been thinking about it for the better part of a decade. Philip's been thinking about it for probably about as long, if not longer. He's working on a play right now that we might actually do on tour. Who knows? But yeah, these things are all siloed, stultified, siphoned away. And ultimately, it does make sense. People are like, well, it's got to turn a profit at the end of the day. Theater has to stay afloat. The whatever has to stay afloat. And so I'm going to just draw these red lines here coming up and just put them all, like, this is all going towards this one thing here, which is the growth of profit, right? And of course, like, people are trying to find their existence as persons, trying to develop themselves as people by doing any of these things. And it's becoming increasingly hard to even do them in the first place. The civic networks that existed for our grandparents are not there. And our parents slept on it and didn't even realize it was happening. And now they think that they have it when they don't. Or they're sad and bitter, and for good reason. Because ultimately, everything's fucked. But they're probably blaming themselves, or you, or me, or something, right? But the point is it's none of us. It is this issue. It's always been this issue. This is why I got into this shit in the first place, like 10 years ago. And this is why I got involved with various political movements, was because I thought in some way they were dealing with this issue. And it turns out they're not. And that's ultimately what we're doing here, is trying to conceptualize this situation. And, I don't know. I think, I guess my cynicism that comes with doing all this critical theory all the time is really on the other side of, like, this tremendous hope that I have, that things really can change. And it's not like this kind of change that's necessarily progressive, because I don't think it will look progressive in all of it. I think that there will be a flourishing of conservative values. There will be a flourishing of liberal values. There will be a flourishing of family. There will be a flourishing of community. There will also be a flourishing of school and of all of these other routes to potential recognition, and bringing it back to that idea that we can't get potential recognition except for some simulation of it, where it's like, oh, here's a degree, you're clearly a thinker now, you have a PhD. Outside of that, the only real realm where you can objectively prove that you did the fucking thing is the kind of shit that Goggins goes hard on. In the world of theory and philosophy, it's really easy to act like you're doing the work. And some of these people who come around and talk a big game about other people don't read books, and they've got it all figured out. They've got their politics and their historical narrative down, and now they're here to be like the representative of the movement or whatever. They become, like, in the media space, the proxy for having read. They're here they're here to tell you they did the reading, and that by following them, it's like you did the reading. They're supposed to make you feel that way. We're here doing the exact opposite, swimming upriver, telling you, not only have you not read, we haven't read, none of us have read, the conditions of possibility for being able to read have been undermined.
Dude, that's why, I don't know, like, I always go back to the fact that the process itself is what's really happening. The process itself is what matters. And I guess I always try to put it in reference to, like, trying to explain to someone else, like, well, what is it? What are you doing? What's going on? And that's it. Like, that is what is going on. We're investigating new ways to put our feet down and resolutely, scream from the rooftops, like, no, God damn it, I won't take this anymore. I'm a fucking human being, and I want to have a human existence. I don't want to be totally instrumentalized in my every single moment of my waking hours, like, because it currently is all of your time, no matter what you do, whether you're a worker or whether you're a fucking lazy piece of shit. It's instrumentalized. You're producing data, your consumption habits, your geolocation, like all of these things, you are being productive from the point of view of the machine itself. And there's no way to get out of that. So we just have to take that on. We have to accept it, and we have to move forward and try to do things, like you said, swimming upstream, going against the grain, doing things that on the surface may appear counterintuitive, that may appear silly, it may appear like we're wasting time. Although to some other people, I think they get at least some part of it. They realize we're not just wasting time. But that's it. That process itself is what it is. Like it's not, oh, I'm going to work out so I can get heavy so I can join the 1,000 club. I want to run a 100-mile marathon. I want to read 100 books and then write 100 essays. It's none of that. We're not looking at like a mechanized, instrumentalized end result that we can package and market to somebody. We are looking at an ongoing process that necessarily has no definite end. Like you have to get outside of that thinking of achievement. You have to get outside of that thinking of like paying a cost and receiving something like in return for the cost that you're paying. Like, no, you're paying a cost because you're already roped into it. There's no way to escape paying a cost. The fact that you were born necessitates the fact that you will continue paying this price, this cost, whatever, until you die.
And I need to sit
So
there.
You're
like
done.
you're not going
Oh,
to
you're done
be,
right now.
you're not going to be given something in return for the price that you're paying. You have to fucking take it for yourself. And that looks like this. That looks like taking it for yourself. I want to do this. I want to have these experiences. I want to be able to think for myself. I want to be able to engage and interact with the world itself. And that's it. Like, that's the process. It's not settling and saying, oh, well, you know, maybe this will make me leftist enough, or, oh, maybe this will make me radical enough, or, oh, maybe this will make me respected enough by people that I respect. You know, maybe I can write something and they'll think I'm smart and they'll give me recognition. Like, no, it's not about any of that. We have to be willing to like commit ourselves to an ongoing, never-ending process that other people may or may not realize. And it's not about them realizing it. It's about doing this for yourself. So everyone out there on the internet, go do something. Like, say, fuck it. I'm going to read a goddamn book. I'm going to run a marathon. I'm going to go learn how to skateboard. I'm going to go learn how to slackline. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. I'm going to take something back for myself, because everything has been taken from you, and everything was taken from you before you were even fucking born. And it will be a never-ending fucking struggle against the machine. Welcome to the fucking party. There's no end in sight. And because of that fact, there is hope, because we're doing it nonetheless.
This dude on Twitch is like, you'll look back on this in 10 years and think, what the fuck was I saying? True. But
Hopefully,
that's
dude.
literally the point. That's literally the point. Welcome to the club. That's what it's about. If you're not looking back and thinking, what the fuck was I saying? What are you even doing? Right? I mean, that's how I see it anyways. So now we're going to slowly transition to Nina Powers. So we've got 15 or 12 minutes here to close out this. Zachary Smith says, thank you, LMAO, when he said, isn't that the point? Yeah. How's this dude not know how a camera and timeout work and think he's going to change the world? LOL. I know you're not supposed to read. I know you're not supposed to read these people, but it's kind of like part of the fun of putting something out on Twitch is like, this is exactly what you get. So you have someone who isn't reading difficult texts, who is not part of a theater community, who is not able to practice multiple music instruments, who is not practicing multiple languages every week, who is watching somebody who has learned how to do all of those things and experiment with new media, and then the form of trolling they take, you know, it's for their enjoyment or whatever, is just to be like, ho, 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 ho. And it's just like, it's good. It doesn't keep me humble though. I admit it actually makes me feel like a badass, and it reminds me of how stupid some people really can be and how pathetic they are. And I'm sorry that like the internet really is teeming with like these people who talk to themselves on the bus, but like that's basically what you are, dude. Like that's literally what you that's you, dude. That's you. That's your whole fucking existence.
Amen.
And it doesn't have to be that way. You can pull your head out of your ass. It is literally possible. You know, I'm not just trying to bully here, but it's like you got to realize like it's real people here. And I don't know if, like, you can either choose
that's part of what's like, that's part of this process is like we're discovering you know what it is to be human through enduring and suffering and also enjoying and experiencing and all these things, because we've largely forgotten what it means to be human, because for the most part the human contact we get is two-dimensional. It's on a fucking screen. Everyone is just on call waiting for you to either upvote them or downvote them, either to celebrate them or to fucking call them a retard. And that's what other people have become. Other people have been flattened out into nothing more than posts. And yeah, you get libidinally invested in it, and some people like to talk shit. Other people like to do things that cause other people to talk shit about them. I don't know. It is what it is. And it's all a game that we're all playing at the same time, but it's not the only game. It's not the only game there is. Like, there's an entire fucking world outside your window. Go fucking do something, man. Go break a law. If you're such a badass, super cool, radical leftist, go set something on fire, dude. I don't know. You're muted.
Go skateboard, dude. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Go hard flip a 9-stair and send me footage. Like, you're not, that's what I challenge, bitch. Go hard flip a fucking 9-stair and then you can talk shit.
Yeah. Translate Junger and come back to us. We'll talk later. So, yeah, but no, this camera issue, he's right though. It is bananas, actually, this camera situation. But you know what, YouTubers, thank you for being here. There's like 37 of you. Makes me feel good about, you know, only having 4 on Twitch. I'd rather have this ratio any day. But, you know, Twitch does make it so that we can ultimately, potentially expand out and reach some other people. And so, the worst thing that ever happened to me was when I went from being basically a YouTube essayist, and I admit to having thought of myself as some kind of an influencer and cringe, you know, but going from that to being forced onto Twitch and that being my only platform, or at least I felt forced, that was crazy. And the reason it happened was because I got terminated from YouTube, and it took like 3 months of advocating, maybe 2 months of advocating to be able to get my my YouTube channel back. And I part of the whole point of the Twitch thing I started doing was advocating to #FreeThePlebe, which was to say my channel used to be called Theory Plebe, and I was just trying to get it back because that's where all my videos were. They had been erased, right? But if it wasn't for all of the kinds of, like, if it wasn't just for the YouTube termination, but also for the fact that my housing situation kept getting undermined, and that I couldn't ever really set up a space, if it wasn't for the couple years of genuine resistance from the real that I was facing, I would not be doing any of the things that I'm currently doing. And so that genuine resistance from the real, it comes from other people when other people don't fit into your categories, and that shit gets messy with other human beings, and you realize they say one thing and then they walk another talk altogether, or saying one thing, doing another walk. There's a saying for this. It's escaping me, but
quack like a duck.
Yeah.
I don't fucking know, dude.
That shit, combined with actual lessons from the real, as in like resistance in the form of, oh yeah, I'm going to do this thing,
Like, for instance, oh, I'm going to use this other camera and then I'm going to do this thing on this whiteboard, and then realizing how much of a pain in the ass it actually is. Because when we spent 40 minutes and then we finally decided, oh, we'll just let it turn off every once in a while, we'll turn it back on, we did not foresee that it would turn off sometimes in 20 seconds. That was actually not, because before it was like 45 minutes and then it turns off, 20 minutes it turns off, 45 minutes it turns off. 20 seconds is very distracting when I'm trying to lecture, when I'm trying to actually have a real conversation with you and do shit like this. But I want to say, like, one of my favorite things from the tour was watching you develop as a public speaker. And that's why I expected that when I asked the question about best versus worst organizing, you were going to say something about Theory Underground Tour, because it's like not all of the events went so smoothly. We would feel confident going up to it, and then shit was weird. Like maybe the audience was distractible and disrespectful, or like, maybe there was presenters who didn't give a fuck about what was actually going on, didn't care about the organization, didn't respect anything about what we were doing, and was using it literally just as an opportunity to talk. And it's like, cool, whatever, but like, we're trying to do something here. And they were just treating us like we're some influencers, when it's like, we're trying to break that mold, guys. And so there's a lot of these lessons that came from things. And I'm saying that, like, watching you develop as a speaker was one of the big ones. Watching the fact that you kind of became a speaker was also one of them, because it wasn't exactly the plan going in. But then it's like, well, you are part of the volume, and you're not going to just present at one stop on the tour. You're here. Why not, actually do something? And you practice reading off of your notes. You practice going off the cuff. You've discovered that you liked going off of the cuff a lot more. Like the first no audience place that we did a presentation in was what's the fucking town called in not Denver, Bridgeport, Bridgington.
I don't know. Philip, are you there, dude? Where was that?
Breckenridge, Colorado.
Breckenridge.
Hey, thanks, Ann. Breckenridge. Okay, so yeah, that Breckenridge trip was really interesting. Like, we got to do stuff on a really awesome stage, but we had faulty cameras and we didn't have reliable live stream, and so the footage is fucking terrible. But the topic was really interesting, and we had a fun time anyway, even though nobody was there. But I remember you were like last second, kind of like, I'll do this better if we're in conversation. And so we ended up doing that. And I just want to say, on this tour for Europe, I kind of want to bring our conversations component to things. If I do a lecture on something, I want to do it where it's like you're there and it's like this back and forth. But also sometimes it'll be more like a live podcast where the two of us are just talking and we're telling people about some shit. There's all kinds of shit that we want to tell people about. There's all kinds of classes that we've taken together. And so, yeah. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, I think that's dope. I always find myself in this situation. I feel foolish. I feel like I don't have anything. I do have things to say, and I think I do have things that are worth saying. I just feel like I'm not the best person to say them, or maybe I can't come up with them on my own. I don't fucking know. I just feel like I feel foolish when people are paying attention to me when I'm talking and people are paying attention. Like, who the fuck am I? You guys have better things to do. And I think that's true, but also I do feel like some of the things I want to say are worth saying and worth being heard by other people. So it's a weird tension that I don't know. I do like the conversational format though a lot. Like I think the fact that we've read so much together.
Yeah.
I mean, we fucking have read so many books, essays, articles, fragments, and already had so many of these conversations. That background does, I think, contain a wealth of like shit to be shared with other people. So I do like that format a lot.
Thinking is super uncool, and that's why you should do it. It's just like almost anything that's like cool anymore. yeah, it just sucks. And I think that's like what the underground movement has always been about, is just like seeing what's in the mainstream, being like, it ain't there, and kind of like cobbling something together, you know? And yeah, it's a little mismatched, but that's like its beauty.
We cannot do direct revolution, but the only way to lay the foundation for it is to do what you are doing to move the underground. It's a theoretically correct title.
Welcome to Theory Underground, where workers with earbuds can find genuine liberation from necessity.
Research at Theory Underground focuses on what is most important for understanding our current situation: theory of the subject, capital, time-energy theory, critical media theory, CMT, and the most essential critiques necessary for understanding why the theory, ideology, and common sense of influencers left to right misses the mark.
We bring primary texts from leading lights of diverse fields to bear on topical issues and works popular in our current world. Theory Underground is a publishing house as well as lecture course and social media platform.
You've been reading Underground Theory.
Yes.
And
amazing book. I'm a publisher and an editor. I run and review books. Literally, it's my living. This is the best edited collection I've ever read.
Jesus Christ.
This is a little experiment in what I, David McKerracher, can pull off without relying on the academy or the algorithmic dictates of the attention economy.
Usually a good edited collection has good essays, but you only want to read a few. Every essay makes me want to read the other essays because you have a vision. Everyone that you invited for a reason. You weren't some fake publicist who's like, how's so-and-so's a new book, have them on your show. No, you only talk to people because you've read shit by them, that you've thought about, that you think has value, even if you disagree. So I think that's what's amazing.
I believe that I am, like so many others, pioneering a future in which educators can form learning webs that will make learning as a way of life enjoyable and emancipatory. However, before these tools become accessible, they have to be experimented with. That's why I built my own website and app using nothing more than my own saved wages, 5 patrons, and some small classes of students over the last year. Of course, I also have had my wife Anne's moral support and help with accounting so that I don't get in trouble with the IRS or whatever. In less than a year, Theory Underground has already put out 8 courses, 2 books, one, my book, Timenergy, and the other, Underground Theory, which has over 30 contributors, including works written by students at Theory Underground, some of my fellow travelers, and colleagues in the broader universe of underground theory. Beyond the books and courses, though, you will also find interviews, reading exegetical reaction sessions, and live weekly events for working class autodidacts, independent researchers, and renegade academics. These include a variety of clubs and cohorts that meet on a weekly or monthly basis. If you want to get involved, there are 4 main subscription levels.
Think of it like a gym membership, but for your mind.
The point is to make learning, practice, and theoretical comprehension a way of life. Support at this stage of the operation is more crucial than ever because my savings were used up over the last year of getting this established. If I can triple my subscribers in the next 2 months, I can quit my gig at Amazon and focus on this work full time. All I need is a few more people at each of the levels or a couple big time patrons who just want to see it happen. Right now I am doing a patron and site subscriber drive, so excuse the commercial. But if you end up really liking what goes on at this channel, consider signing up soon. If you cannot afford it, but want to get involved with some of the stuff behind the paywall, I have made a financial aid scholarship you can sign up for here in the description. Quick side note, some people ask about the profit motive. At this point, I have not actually made a return on any of my investment in terms of the amount of time, energy that I put into things, the amount of savings I've actually put into things, the opportunity cost of the work that I'm doing as opposed to the other kinds of things that I could be doing for money. But more importantly, I don't actually make enough to pay for my cost of living. The goal is to make enough for my cost of living, and then once that is achieved, everything over that amount is going to go towards expanding the operation to the point where I can hire Michael Downs, aka Mikey of The Dangerous Maybe, to be a full-time researcher and part-time teacher at Theory Underground. All right, so with that aside, I just want to say also, if you are a worker with earbuds, what's up? I see you. I work at Amazon part-time, and everything I do is for my past self who used to work there full-time. Most workers with earbuds couldn't care less about theory, But I do believe a working class intellectual revolution could grow out of the underground theory scene. My hope is that what I have built here will contribute to making the scene something more than just a scene, and you into something more than just a scene kid. We're trying to make this into a real intellectual milieu capable of leading a way forward beyond the imminent crises facing humanity. But for that, we need thinking now more than ever.
Start thinking.
I hope that you either will or have enjoyed the program, and also make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and leave this playing in the background all the time while you're doing other things.
Playing long-form Theory Underground content in the background while you do things has, in the near future, been scientifically proven to emancipate minds from the functional illiteracy imposed on workers by the structural stultification of time energy. This is achieved by reterritorializing circumspective concern.
Also, to some degree, it is for the algorithm.
Think of it like a gym membership for your mind!
Just want to make a quick shout out here at the end to my patrons over at Patreon. I set the Patreon up like a week and a half ago because the fact is not everybody wants to be a subscriber at my website. Not everybody wants to take courses at the website. And so people who are looking to support in some other way, Patreon is kind of a tried and true route, and some people really prefer it. And so to those who are becoming patrons at my Patreon, thank you so much. If I can get up to $500 per month between people over at my website and people over at the Patreon and people over at the Substack, collectively, I will be able to quit the job at Amazon and do this full time. And so to the people who just started trying to make that possible over at Patreon, special shout out to Alexander, Neil, Darian Large, and Nikolash. You guys are really helping make the difference. Really appreciate it. And to anybody who becomes a subscriber or a patron here in the next month, I just want to say you get a free copy of my new book, Time Energy, Why You Have No Time or Energy. And you really incentivized me to get the audio recording of this finished, which I've been working on. So thank you. Take care, everybody.